Have you ever wondered why the least intelligent people often think they're the smartest in the room? Why they speak with such confidence, such certainty, as if doubt has never crossed their mind? It's strange, isn't it? The people who know the least often sound the most sure, while those who truly understand hesitate, question, and pause. In this video, we're going to explore why ignorance doesn't feel empty. It feels powerful. Why false confidence is so convincing, and how a philosopher from centuries ago uncovered the hidden psychology behind this illusion. A truth that may quietly challenge the way you trust your own certainty. Stupidity does not announce itself as confusion. It arrives dressed as certainty. More than 200 years ago, Arthur Schopenhauer noticed a disturbing pattern in human psychology. The less a person knows, the more confident they become. Not because they are brave or outspoken, but because ignorance removes the ability to perceive complexity. Intelligence complicates reality. Ignorance simplifies it. A limited mind sees the world as clean, obvious, and settled. There are no layers to peel back, no contradictions to wrestle with, no unanswered questions demanding patience. Everything feels clear, final, certain. This is why shallow thinkers speak in absolutes, why they sound decisive, why they rarely hesitate. Knowledge introduces friction. It slows the mind down. It forces questions where answers once felt obvious. Every new insight exposes uncertainty. Every conclusion opens another problem, but ignorance does the opposite. It creates false clarity. When you don't know enough to see what's missing, so nothing feels missing. Schopenhauer understood that certainty is often not a sign of truth, but a symptom of blindness. He described this mental state as a kind of comfort, a place where confidence feels earned simply because the mind lacks the tools to challenge itself. A fool's paradise. In this paradise, simplicity feels like wisdom. Ease of understanding feels like intelligence, and doubt feels unnecessary, even dangerous. And here's the uncomfortable part. This confidence feels good. Doubt is exhausting. Uncertainty is painful. Admitting ignorance wounds the ego. So the mind protects itself. It chooses certainty over depth, comfort over truth, answers over questions. This is why intelligent people often appear unsure, and why fools appear strong. But hesitation is not weakness. It is awareness waking up. The moment answers stop coming easily. The moment reality begins to feel complicated. The moment certainty cracks under its own weight. That is not confusion. That is the beginning of intelligence. And if this idea makes you uncomfortable, good. Because discomfort is not ignorance resisting. It's insight breaking through. Confidence feels natural. That's what makes it dangerous. Once ignorance creates certainty, the mind builds a story to protect it. A story where mistakes are invisible, flaws feel irrelevant, and self-assessment becomes wildly inaccurate. In the late 20th century, two psychologists, David Dunning and Justin Kruger, gave scientific structure to what philosophers had long suspected. They discovered that incompetence doesn't just limit performance, it blocks self-awareness. In simple terms, to know how bad you are at something, you need the very skills you don't have. This creates a psychological trap, a double blindness. The same lack of ability that causes poor performance also prevents the person from recognizing that poor performance. Errors go unnoticed. Weak reasoning feels solid. Confidence rises not because of success, but because failure is invisible. Meanwhile, those who are skilled experience the opposite problem. They see nuance. They detect flaws. They recognize how much more there is to learn. So they hesitate. Experts often assume tasks are easy for everyone, because they forget how much knowledge they carry. Their confidence is restrained by perspective. The beginner's confidence is inflated by its absence. This is why confidence and competence move in opposite directions before they align. At the lowest levels of understanding, confidence spikes. As knowledge increases, certainty collapses. Only much later does confidence slowly rebuild. Grounded, measured, realistic. Most people never make it past the collapse. They mistake the first rush of certainty for mastery. They confuse early familiarity with deep understanding. And because confidence feels like knowing, the mind stops searching. This illusion is everywhere. People speak boldly about topics they've barely studied. They dismiss complexity as overthinking. They reject correction because correction feels unnecessary. After all, why doubt something that feels so obvious? But obviousness is not truth, and certainty is not accuracy. True understanding is uncomfortable. It destabilizes identity. It replaces answers with better questions. That's why most people prefer the illusion. Because the illusion protects the ego, and once the ego is protected, learning becomes optional. The world is not simple, but to an untrained mind, it looks that way. When understanding is shallow, everything feels equally clear. Complex ideas, weak arguments, deep truths, and cheap opinions all blend together into the same flat surface. Nothing stands out, because the mind lacks the depth to perceive difference. This is where false confidence becomes dangerous. Centuries ago, Arthur Schopenhauer warned that ignorance doesn't just simplify reality, it erases contrast. When someone cannot recognize depth, they also cannot recognize shallowness. Everything appears roughly equal. This is why fools are easily impressed, why slogans feel profound, why certainty sounds like intelligence. They mistake ease of understanding for truth. A deep idea resists you. It demands patience, context, effort. A shallow idea welcomes you instantly. It feels intuitive. It flatters your existing beliefs. And the mind, especially an untrained one, prefers comfort over challenge. But there is an even darker evolution of this problem. When simplicity is no longer enough, some people begin to imitate depth. They stack jargon. They invent elaborate theories. They hide emptiness behind complexity. Schopenhauer would have recognized this immediately. Complicated stupidity. Not ignorance speaking simply, but ignorance speaking ornately. It sounds intelligent. It feels sophisticated. But nothing meaningful lies underneath. And because most listeners lack the tools to evaluate depth, this illusion works. Complexity becomes a substitute for insight. Confusion becomes proof of intelligence. This is how nonsense gains authority. This is how weak ideas survive scrutiny. This is how empty confidence evolves instead of collapsing. The tragedy is that real understanding often sounds modest. It uses fewer words. It avoids absolutes. While fake depth shouts, so the loudest voices dominate, and the quietest truths get ignored. And once confusion is mistaken for wisdom, correction becomes nearly impossible. At some point, every thoughtful person runs into the same wall. You explain patiently, you present evidence, you clarify the misunderstanding, and nothing changes. Not because the other person is stubborn, but because they are unable to see that they are wrong. Arthur Schopenhauer was brutally honest about this. He argued that some minds lack the internal structure required to recognize error. To them, correction does not register as information. It registers as opinion. Disagreement feels identical to mistake. Contradiction feels like attack, and evidence feels irrelevant. This creates a closed psychological loop. Every challenge strengthens belief. Every correction feels like confirmation. Every opposing view is dismissed as ignorance. The problem isn't attitude, it's perception. To recognize an error, you must be able to imagine being wrong, and imagination requires cognitive depth. Without it, the mind protects itself by rejecting anything that threatens certainty. This is why arguing with some people feels pointless. They aren't defending an idea. They are defending psychological safety. Admitting error would collapse their identity. It would expose the illusion they live inside. So the illusion becomes untouchable. This explains endless debates that never move, online arguments that spiral endlessly, discussions where logic seems powerless. The louder the certainty, the more fragile it is. Truly intelligent people are difficult to offend because they are not attached to being right, but the ignorant cling tightly to certainty, because certainty is all they have. And once someone can no longer be corrected, learning stops entirely. That is not confidence, that is intellectual paralysis. Think carefully about that. Now comes the most uncomfortable question of all. Not why stupid people think they're smart, but how do you know you're not one of them? This is where most discussions stop. Because this question turns the spotlight inward, and most people don't want honesty. They want reassurance. Arthur Schopenhauer had no interest in reassurance. His answer was sharp, simple, and deeply unsettling. Doubt, not insecurity. Not self-hatred, but productive doubt. The ability to question your own conclusions. To feel uneasy about answers that come too easily. To pause when certainty feels comforting instead of earned. The fool avoids doubt at all costs. The intelligent person learns to live with it. Why? Because real understanding expands awareness of ignorance. The more you learn, the more you realize how vast the unknown truly is. Knowledge does not create arrogance, it creates humility. This is the great paradox of intelligence. Beginners feel confident because they see little. Experts feel cautious because they see much. The fool believes knowledge is possession. The wise understand knowledge is perspective. This is why the smartest people often speak carefully. They avoid absolutes. They leave room for correction. They actively search for opposing viewpoints. Not to win arguments, but to test their thinking. That behavior is not weakness. It is strength under control. A dangerous mind is one that never questions itself. A powerful mind is one that interrogates itself relentlessly. And here's the hard truth. Everyone is vulnerable to this illusion. No one is immune, not intelligence, not education, not experience. The moment you believe you've outgrown ignorance, you've stepped directly back into it. This is why self-awareness is not a destination, it's a discipline. You don't escape the Dunning-Kruger effect once and for all. You manage it by seeking feedback instead of validation, by listening more than you speak, by treating confidence as something to earn, not assume. Most importantly, by welcoming discomfort, because discomfort is a signal. It means your ideas are being challenged, your assumptions are being tested, your certainty is under pressure, and pressure is where thinking evolves. The fool interprets discomfort as threat. The wise interpret it as information. That difference alone determines who grows and who stagnates. So the real question is not, am I smart? The real question is, am I willing to be wrong? Am I willing to revise my beliefs? Am I willing to admit blind spots? Am I willing to trade certainty for clarity? Because the wisest person is not the one who knows the most, but the one who knows how much they don't know. And the most dangerous person in any room is the one who cannot imagine being mistaken. If this video has made you uncomfortable, if it has unsettled your certainty instead of reinforcing it, that's a good sign, because stupidity feels calm, but thinking feels uneasy, and wisdom always begins where certainty ends. If this sparked even a flicker of doubt in what you thought you knew, if it made you question your own certainty, then keep challenging your mind. Subscribe, not for easy answers, but for the questions that make you think, because curiosity is the only antidote to the fool's paradise.